The biggest fear for parents or soon-to-be parents who survived childhood trauma is that we'll make mistakes that leave our children feeling like we do about our childhood. I want to assure you that it doesn't have to be like that. This month, inside Trauma Free Nation, I'm hosting a masterclass called Healing Your Legacy, Raising Happy, Confident Children Who Don't Feel Your Childhood Trauma. I'm going to explain each concept that you'll learn and why it's important when you want to change your legacy. First, you'll learn how to give clear, effective commands that allow your child to make their own choices. When they have this freedom, we often find that children consistently make good choices. This is important because those of us who had traumatic childhoods were never given clarity and safety when it came to our choices. Instead, we had to try to figure out how to get what we needed from frightening or inconsistent parents. That left us with this ongoing fear or nervousness whenever we came up to a situation where we can't tell what is expected. Giving clear, effective commands ensures that your child won't grow up with that problem, and new situations can be navigated with confidence instead of fear. And where they don't understand a new situation, they'll be much more able to ask clarifying questions to help them develop their own sense of safety. All because you modeled that skill for them at home. You'll develop an understanding that children only show 3 types of behaviors. Those we like and want to see more of, those we don't like but can tolerate, and those we don't like and will not tolerate. When you understand these 3 types of behaviors and how to respond to each type, your child will get the benefits because you'll be teaching them how healthy boundaries are developed, how they're communicated and enforced. Also, when we parent from fear that we're going to somehow harm our children, we tend to be too soft with our boundaries with them. Believe it or not, it's that leads us to setting up a dynamic with our child where they learn to either be too soft with their own interpersonal boundaries or push too hard into other people's boundaries. This is a situation where those parts of you that are too nice and people take advantage of you gets learned subconsciously by your child. This is one of the ways that the cycle continues, and even though you practice nonviolence in your home, your child may still pick up habits that come from your abuse history. Learning how to navigate these 3 types of behaviors and doing it in a firm but loving way will teach your child about boundaries in relationships. And that is so huge when it comes to making sure that they learn how to develop healthy relationships themselves. You'll learn how to give appropriate praise. One of the mistakes we make when we've grown up in hurtful situations is that we feel so badly about ourselves that we think the opposite of that is what our child needs. I've seen so many parents rely on good boy or good girl to try to counter their own negative internal messages. But here's the problem with that. A child, in the moments in between this kind of praise, good girl or good boy, thinks, my parent didn't say good boy or good girl, so I must be bad. I know, you're doing everything you can to avoid that, but kiddos' brains fill in those spaces. So appropriate praise builds self-esteem by using language that helps your child feel loved and capable. It's also not, I'm proud of you. Because although children need to hear that, it's important to avoid making our child feel good about themselves based on our feelings. For example, whether or not we're proud. So in this masterclass, you'll learn how to give praise that builds your child's self-esteem and teaches them how to get through problems without giving up because of the message that you offer as praise. You'll learn how to ignore behaviors that are unacceptable while making the child feel accepted and loved. Teaching by example what behaviors are not okay and what is. So I already said there are 3 types of behaviors, and this is one of the responses. Ignore the behavior, not the child. This is really important because we teach our children through social learning. They learn from what they see, what they do, and what they feel while they're interacting with you. Ignoring the child until he or she figures out what you really want when they're misbehaving only increases anxiety, or worse, anger and rebellious behaviors. Instead, I'll teach you how to make unacceptable behaviors learning experiences that turn out positive for you and for your child. Your child will feel supported and want to make choices that help them get what they need. What will your child learn? That mistakes can be corrected and that it's okay to not get it right sometimes. It also helps you to avoid having your child build resentments towards you because of punishments that you've given to try to get unacceptable behaviors to end. You'll learn how to reverse the pattern of shame and guilt that is often handed down to us by non-supportive parents. When I teach you how to use your words and responses to mistakes in a way that's healing for you and for your child. This is so important because it's making mistakes without love and support that reinforced our own struggles with guilt and shame. You want a child who knows mistakes are a natural part of learning. And you communicate this both in the way you respond to your own mistakes as well as your child's mistakes. It's really important to remember with this one that it's so much more than just saying it's okay when a mistake happens. It's our own attitude and anxiety levels that the child reads that leads to their conclusion about mistakes and what kind of a person they are when they make mistakes. You'll also develop clarity about how your child's behaviors trigger your trauma responses. Let's face it, kids break rules. And whether you are a super rule follower or not, unsupportive caregivers give an undeniable message that when a rule gets broken, even if it isn't you who broke the rule, hurtful consequences happen. The earliest instance of this that I can recall was when my toddler didn't want to leave the park when I said it was time to go. It totally freaked me out, and I actually forgot that this little bundle weighs less than 40 pounds, and I could offer a consequence of carrying her out of the park. Of course, she'd be kicking and screaming, or offering her the option of walking. She loved her freedom, so the conflict would be over. But because of the triggered response in me, if I showed any independence toward my mother at that age, the emotional and physical consequences were overwhelming. So I responded in fear instead of with confidence and encouragement for my child to choose freedom on her own. So I'm going to stop right here and tell you that it's normal for your trauma brain to see any rule breaking from your child as a threat to your personal safety. That's why I'm including the parenting section inside of my community, Trauma Free Nation. Because I believe that to be the most effective parents, we need more than the strategies that I'll be teaching in this masterclass. We need fast, effective ways to neutralize our own trauma responses so that we can parent without fighting our own demons. The next thing you'll learn is how to use your awareness of your child's unique personality to build their self-esteem. Everyone is born with a real self. You have it too. If you're still watching this video, chances are that your real self has been covered by layers of trauma. In this masterclass, I'll show you how to make your child feel seen for who they really are. And that makes a child, well, it makes anyone, feel loved. It's important because self-esteem is a prerequisite for self-growth, for problem solving, and for becoming everything that a person was meant to be. Finally, I'll teach you about your child's basic needs, how trauma developed gaps for you in this area, and how to use your new understanding to help you figure out why your child acts out in attempts to get their needs met, and how to teach them socially appropriate ways to get their needs met with love and safety. This is a big skill that separates healthy people from unhealthy people when it comes to developing relationships with potential life partners. It's so fundamental that I tell people in the dating scene to really pay attention here. Look for conflict and see how a potential partner interacts when you ask for your needs in healthy ways. When you do this with your child, they will be equipped to rule people out of their future based on how healthy or unhealthy a potential friend, boss, or partner is when it comes to conflicting needs. So that's what you'll learn on the inside. There are just a few more things I want to add. The master class includes a live group question and answer session with me to help you apply what you've learned. These sessions are ongoing as long as you're a member in good standing. And your membership has no strings attached. You can cancel at any time. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes people can get overwhelmed by the idea of making shifts that change their legacy. I want you to know that it's possible to change your life and to help your children succeed. The idea that you won't is simply a trauma belief. You can learn. As you learn, you grow. Healing is possible for you and for your children. So click the button below this video to join me today. The bonus checklist is only available for a few more days and won't be available again until next July. So join me and let me help you change your children's legacy. You and your kids will be glad you did.